Hi and welcome back to the Ruby Tuesday. My name's Ruben and this is my review for Love, Death and Robots Volume 3. There are 9 episodes ranging in different times. I'm very excited to talk about it. Let me know previously which has been your favourite episodes, not volume because I think that has a mixed reaction, but which episodes did you enjoy the most from the previous 2 volumes and this one, I guess, once you've seen it. But for now, let's jump in. Okay, starting chronologically, just in the playlist of how Netflix has set them up, not in any particular ranking. I'm just going to go through them very quickly and then give my overview at the end. So episode 1 is the 3 robots. They return and they continue to show us how humans killed each other with dialogue that rings true, I guess. I think that's probably the best way to describe the 3 robots returning. I know they're a fan favorite from season 1 and it was so cool to see them back. They have this quirky banter that I really enjoy. It's the same sort of animation we've seen before. I don't think it hit as hard as the first one, but I think the where this episode works is once you get to the end, there is a moment that kind of goes, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And I laughed for about 4 to 5 minutes. It was a really nice introduction into kind of volume 3. Really looking forward to kind of, at that moment, what else we're going to see. I think one of the best things about Love, Death and Robots is the variation in animation. And I think I was a little bit disappointed from volume 2 because we didn't get as much variation. I was hoping we were going to get that in this one. So episode 2 is Bad Traveling. I thought this was one of those that they like to have a theme, and moralistic decisions is, I think, the theme here. It's like, what are your morals going to drive you to do? What is right and wrong? And so we start on a pirate ship that is invaded by a giant crab, and they have to decide basically who's going to survive the journey, and how far they push this journey comes down to the decision making. Now, the animation style itself is almost photorealistic, but different kind of elongated faces, humanistic forms. But I think where the story gets interesting is this kind of relationship between the crab and one of the pirates, and seeing what develops and what choices the people make on it. The animation itself is great. The lighting is spectacular in this episode. Really atmospheric. The score is fantastic, but doesn't stand out, so it doesn't stand above the rest of the story. But once you get to the end, it just kind of ends. And I was like, this is one of those. This is why I like and hate Love, Death and Robots, is because so many of these worlds they start playing with, they give you an idea of what you could expect from a series of like an arc or a story. They start expanding massive worlds and then it just ends. You're like, man, I was really enjoying that. That was this one for me. It reminded me of why I loved it, but then gets sad when it ends. 3 is the pulse in the machine. So it's CGI but covered in shell shading. So it's an interesting look and way to do it. Sorry, I'm just glancing at my notes. So Martha is our sole survivor in an expedition on a planet. It's an expedition mission. Obviously something goes wrong, and so we have this journey where Martha's trying to survive. She's trying to get to basically survive. She has a route to go to, a certain amount of time to get there, and then she has a certain amount of air. And in amongst that, we have this beautiful artistic world, really artistic, because the dialogue that you hear, that you encounter, is poetry. So it has this beautiful, she kind of gets a bit delirious in some of it, and then here's poetry. Has a real theme again in this. So many of the episodes do have like a theme of something that they're trying to teach you or tell you without being preachy. I know some people don't like me using the word preachy. Sometimes you have to be preachy. I don't know. If your message is at the forefront and you've forgotten the art behind it, I think then you're missing what the platform is used, this entertainment platform. And I think here the balance is shown really well. There's a message within that. I think it is about death and the afterlife and whatever you choose. But I think you can glean probably a few themes from this. I just really like the journey, the way they showed the vistas, the color palette that they chose to use within this journey. That was always slightly tense, but also just enjoying the kind of what's happening on screen. Night of the Mini Dead is I guess, number 4. And I have to say, I think this is the one I enjoyed the most, that I smiled and laughed the most. It's like fast forward on every zombie movie ever that you've watched into one little kind of contained story with miniature people, and you hear the like little fast forwarded voices going, "Oh, we're gonna do this," and you see people like joggers being attacked. You see how the virus spreads around the world. There's the White House saying whatever the White House, like, we're not gonna stand for this. We see how the world would retaliate, and then we get different locations seeing the different how the zombies affected. And I thought it was so clever, so fun, such a great way to revitalize the zombie genre that has been done to death. Like, we've taken the zombie genre and tried and do it every way, but this was unique, and I thought, wow, like, hats off to you for actually doing something that's different and really fun. So episode 5, Kill Team Kill, might be my favorite one. I guess that kind of shows what I grew up with. 80s movies, those classic Predator films, Terminator films. This one feels like that. You take this group of guys with the dialogue to match, stick them in a sort of aliens environment and have them try to survive, and you're wondering who's going to survive. I love the dialogue, I love the animation style, and it cracked me up of how they're going to survive. The thing is, with these short episodes, you feel like everyone always is going to die. You don't have very much hope for anyone. I think if there's a violent theme in the episode, you're like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't get my hopes up, which I think it can be to its detriment. So you hold out a slight hope, but you're like, who's going to survive this? I just thought this was like a contained 80s movie, and they did so well with the dialogue, the way the characters look, the visual style of it. I think it worked perfectly, and I really enjoyed it. So 6, Swarm. Again, hyper-realistic photo, kind of realistic, but not quite. They're not quite there. Different sort of elongated human forms, very fit looking human forms, totally in the future, where humans are trying to, I guess, navigate the stars, and we're interacting with different species. This one again had a theme. This for me was the worst one, but also one of the best ones. And the reason I say it's the worst is where it ends. It feels like it's just getting going. There's a story that's like it's a part of a feature film or a long series. There's a giant expanding universe that they've created the lore within, which makes me very interested. And the way they show that, and you get little flying moments where, because humans apparently wherever they are in the swarm, they can breathe, but there's no gravity. So you see these beautiful scenes of where they're flying about, and when the action is there, without doing spoilers, you're seeing how they react and using that gravity. There's a love scene that I think that works quite well within the storyline. You kind of feel somewhat for the characters. They don't have a lot of time to flesh out characters, but you feel there's kind of two main protagonists. And then as the story starts to get going, it's just like, bam. And I was like, what? No, you can't leave it there. So that was somewhat frustrating, because I was really just starting to get into it. Mason Rats is like a modern Western futuristic thing. A farmer is invaded by rats, and he calls an exterminator. And I guess in this version of the world, they have various different machines that can take on rats. And as the story unfolds, you see how intelligent the rats are. And it's this quirky little story between the farmer wanting to just be a farmer and get rid of vermin, and then the rats have this they've obviously evolved, and there's this evolution, there's this line of dialogue like, oh, they've evolved because humans have evolved. And so you see them with like little weapons and stuff. There's this whole story like World War IV for the rats going on with these machines. And I was like, yeah, I feel for the rats, even though I know nothing about them. They seem much more intelligent. And I really wanted to know, again, more of this world. It was a fun little like snack into this version. I liked how it ended. I was satisfied with it. Thought it was quick. The animation style suited it. Reminded me a little bit of Up, that sort of kind of almost block animation. Ratatouille versus Up. That's an interesting one. 8 was In Vaulted Halls, Entombed. And so we have the most realistic, photorealistic episodes so far. The faces at times I thought like I couldn't tell when they were real. I mean, you could tell, but they're just there. So we have this specialized team that's going in to rescue someone, and they end up in this tunnel. That's obviously something's going to go wrong, and there's this kind of invasive species. But then the world, like the expansion of the story, just quickly evolves into something massive. I love the idea of this. I'm not so sure I like how it ended because I don't quite get it, but I understand what they were trying to tell me. Again, it's one of those alien type stories, like literally from the film Alien, Aliens, more likely. You put that in this, maybe mix it with a bit of Predator or some of those other mummy films, and you start to understand what they were doing or maybe paying homage to. It was very interesting. I love the characters. Some of the voice work here I thought was great. I think there's one particular, was it Seth Green in this one? I'm not sure, but the voice work particularly I thought, wow, really great. Believe those characters. Number 9, the final episode in this volume, Jibaro, starts the most bonkers. I didn't really understand what was going on until I understood that this episode was playing with sound, effects, score, no dialogue. And you understand when you watch it. There seems to be an interesting theme as well, like with greed and men, and they're telling a story without having any dialogue. I thought it was fantastically done, very visual, very kind of sad in story. Retribution, I guess, is like these keywords that you would use. Kind of photorealistic, but different, almost feels like a game-like. Again, is a story that I just want to know more of. Most of these, like I think it reminded me of Volume 1 of Love, Death and Robots, of stories where they've just started, rather than contained stories where I feel like we could have so much more in that world. This one is probably the most contained because it has a theme that goes, okay, have you learned your lesson? Do you understand what we're trying to tell you here? And the story along the way is like, wow, this is very beautiful. One of the things I really liked is dance fighting. It's a new martial arts, guys. It's not capoeira, but you'll understand that the mix of violence with the dancing was very interesting with the score that was going on. And I just thought it was beautiful to watch, but violent. With all these episodes, it's obviously an 18 because there are moments it's just extremely gory, as you'd expect, as you come to expect from this. I do think it tapered back a bit. I don't think it was nearly as invasive or as violent as some of the episodes from Volume 1 or Volume 2 even. There were definitely moments where I felt like, I'm not sure how I feel about this volume. I think there were moments that I think it stood out above Volume 1, and there were moments it was on par with Volume 2, and there were moments where I was just like, I really want more from this. I know Volume 1 we had a lot more episodes, and I kind of missed the amount of variation that Volume 1 had in its animation forms. I would have liked to seen some more of that. All in all, I wouldn't know how to rank the volumes. I think if I were pushed, I would say Volume 1 is still up there as number 1, and 2 and 3 sit slightly together. They would weave in and out because I have my favorites from 2 and my favorites from 3. Ones that worked quite well, ones that didn't work quite well. I enjoyed this season though. Let me know, what are your favorite episodes? Not necessarily volumes, but episodes from this volume and the others. Thanks so much for watching. I would give it a 3 3/4 out of 5 Nicolas Cages. But most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.